Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Coco Bandicoot here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Klonoa, Phantasy Reverie series, while we're still playing through Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to take on the next boss somewhere in Indecision Pass, and in addition to that, we also did manage to went back into Baggy J's Island for the final time, and as it turns out, it was just in a disguise thanks to the forms of Leorina, because after all, she did manage to able to steal the rest of all of those elements, so as a result, it did somehow awaken the fifth bell, which pretty much leads us to the fifth kingdom of all things, which, sure enough though, we will come across into that eventually. And also, in addition to that, we also managed to went into the other two levels, which there are, well, let's just say, that particular level right over there, which, despite the fact that I was off by one crystal or jewel left, so that way I can able to actually unlock myself one of the first fewer pages into the forms of the scrapbook. And in addition to that, we also went into Dark Sea of Tears. So, oh no, we actually did those levels no problem, despite the fact that I did die a couple of times on the boss fights, but that's okay though, because no matter what though, it's about the fact that, well, we're almost nearly at the end of this, basically. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're going to be continuing things on and move on to the next level, which appears to be Empty Sea of Tears, which means, no matter what though, since that the entire sea of water is gone, so this means we must able to actually figure out just to get to this particular chasm. So because of this though, the only method we can able to go to this point is that, well, for those of you probably wondering about the fact that you guys even remember two of those levels specifically, which is Jungle Slider, in addition with the forms of Mountains of Maya. Well, no matter what though, we have to rely on the forms of the hoverboard again. So because of that though, yeah, we'll have to able to just try to catch up, I suppose. And exponentially speaking though, is about the fact that hopefully we should be able to actually get some even more dull parts here and there. So hopefully it shouldn't give us that much trouble, I don't think. So, anyways though. So, with that being said though, is about the fact that, kind of thing about it though, is about the fact that this entire stage does kind of reminds me of a similar vibes as the forms of how it does it in Sand Hill from the likes of in Sonic Adventure, except the fact that the biggest difference is that you can able to actually like fly for a bit whilst you're able to do a hoverboard, and pretty much not to mention though is about the fact that, well, exponentially we just have to able to just be very careful of the forms of those narrow paths, because eventually at some point this is where the forms of the latter half of the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, where it comes to difficulty spike, is that I feel like the level design in this particular halfway point in Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, starts to get a little bit more difficult this time around, especially noticeable if you really want to get out of your way to able to actually go after the remaining of those crystals, or jewels to be more specifically, and also I did somehow mess this up right there, because I was attempting to try to get that particular dull piece right here, but luckily though you can able to actually just to take a life away. Although, if you accidentally activate the new checkpoints right there, this means I basically have to restart the entire level all over again if I decide able to pause it from the menu and then try to select exit level and then just call it a day. So, no matter what though, is about the fact that, thankfully, as I mentioned this before, we don't need to necessarily try to worry about wasting too much lives, I don't think. But there was one in particular dull piece I found was a little bit tough and difficult to obtain, which as a result you'll see why as soon as we get to the next platforming level, because as soon as we are done with this particular stage, something tells me about the fact that we might come across into the next boss fight. So because of this though, yeah, it won't give me that much trouble, I don't think. So, jeez, I somehow slid off the edge. Okay, that's fine, because obviously we've already activated the checkpoint from earlier, so either way, we'll just have to just, well, make our bets to try to keep... oh, no! Oh, jeez. You see what I mean about the fact that the later half of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, the difficulty spike is about to get even ridiculously high. Especially noticeable, there was one in particular level coming up, and oh my god, it did it again! Oh, that's a nuisance. Well, exponentially speaking, this is the reason why that I don't think it's possible we can able to reach up to a maximum of 99 lives at this rate. Clearly because, unlike in Klonoa Door to Phantasy, it's really easy to able to grind as many of those extra lives as you could on the original first game. Whilst usually, relatively speaking, that also applies onto the Wii version and the remastered version of Klonoa Door to Phantasy. Whilst compared to the forms of how it does it on Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, either on the original PlayStation 2 version or the remastered version of the game, that getting extra lives is nowhere near as common as the forms of how it does it in Door to Phantasy, in my opinion, because no matter what though, the actual challenge is where the actual stuff comes into play. Although, as soon as we're able to get into the final portion of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, then you do realize about the fact that we pretty much guarantee we can able to actually come across into the true final levels in the entire game. Well, to be more specifically, 2 of them to be exact. So either way, a few things I want to talk about this, aside from the fact that, well, today's date of course is the 28th of March today, in some cases in 2024 today. Although, unfortunately though, there's nothing else I can probably talk about, apart from the fact that for one noticeable thing in mind, well actually 2 noticeable things in mind, I should say, is that recently, for those of you who lived in the UK, happy 11th anniversary of the game's release of Luigi's Mansion 2 for the UK version. So, yeah, I can't even believe about the fact that Luigi's Mansion 2 has already became 11 years old since in 2013, for the likes of the Nintendo 3DS original version. So because of that though, this is the reason why about the fact that we're expecting to able to actually stumble across into ourselves the Nintendo Switch HD remastered version of the game, just because no matter what though, not only for the sake of the forms of managed to able to try to utilize with the superior controls, but it's also about the fact that we can able to experience online play again, but this time on a different system, because obviously no matter what though, like we've already established that before, unfortunately though, we've only got about a couple of days left now until the online services for both the Wii U and 3DS is about to shut down. So I already know for a fact that it's going to be pretty upsetting for the most part. So because of that though, yeah, and as you can tell that we've now able to actually just to build the actual another section of the shelf of those dolls. So meaning about the fact that we've only got about 3 more dolls left. So as a result, we are almost there, folks. We are almost nearly at the end of this game. To be more specifically, Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, basically. So now we're going to be able to stumble across into the next boss in this game, and as it turns out, we're going to be fighting against with Leorina. To be more specifically than that, it has to be by the forms of a cursed version of Leorina. So no matter what though, again, if you already experienced this on the original PlayStation 2 version, you know exactly what I'm about to say. So because of that though, there's another thing I want to mention about this as well. Well, also, for those of you who lived in the UK, actually, well, as it turns out, recently, Kung Fu Panda 4 has recently came out today for the UK version. So because of this, though, and suffice to say, I went to see it just today with Crash Bandicoot, alongside with the forms of any other, like, friends of mine, ranging from, you know, Jewel, Blue, and especially noticeable with the forms of Starlight Glimmer, Trixie, you name the rest. Now as it turns out, I will admit though right away, it's actually really good. Nothing perfect by any means. I mean, obviously we're not going to go into any spoiler territory from now on, just because, you know, Kung Fu Panda 4 is the newest installment of the series, in regards to the forms of the Kung Fu Panda film series. So no matter what though, yeah, I'm probably not going to mention about any of those spoiler elements until likely 10 years from now. Which, honestly, I have no idea why did I somehow explain about that particular 10 years for now kind of line right there, but that's just mainly because no matter what though, we're still on the forms of in 2024 for now, so potentially speaking though, time will tell. So anyways, here we go on to Cursed Leorina right here. So obviously, much like the original PlayStation 2 version, is that this fight is going to be divided into 3 phases. So phase 1 is pretty simple. Basically, we have to use this enemy right here, so that way we need to launch ourselves right into her stomach and rinse and repeat. But until when it gets to the point until on the forms of in phase 2, obviously no matter what though, we have to do things completely opposite. So because of that though, yeah, and also not to mention though, is about the fact that, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that we've only just got about exactly, I would say, 4 days left now until specifically we'll move on to the next month, which appears to be April. And speaking of which though, is about the fact that we've only got about 1 more week left until Freedom Planet 2 is going to be releasing on multiple platforms. Yes, includes the Nintendo Switch version as well. So meaning about the fact that I was very, very, very excited to able to actually just to finally get a chance to play, you know, Freedom Planet 2 for the Nintendo Switch, along with any other multiple platforms as well, ranging from PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and you name the rest. It seems to me more specifically though, is that every time when the, you know, some more third-party games is about to be releasing during that time, we always keep on saying about the exact same platforms over and over and over again, ranging from PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, even PC, and of course Nintendo Switch, because we still have no idea when does Sony's gonna end support the actual newer games during that time on PlayStation 4 systems, in addition with the forms of Xbox Microsoft as well, because no matter what though, despite the fact that PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X is still ongoing, whilst usually for the Nintendo Switch it still keeps on supporting it, which, don't get me wrong, I actually don't mind about the forms of the Nintendo Switch is still ongoing, especially noticeable because no matter what though, because of its success. So relatively speaking though, is about the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking though, is about the fact that we'll discuss more about the forms of the actual Switch sales numbers, updates, and during at some point until on May this year in particular. So no matter what though, that's as far as we can able to explain any of that stuff though. At least I was really hoping about the fact that if the Nintendo Switch is almost going to be ending its life cycle, then obviously no matter what though, I would say that about the fact that I was really hoping that the Nintendo Switch will be eventually going to become the best-selling game consoles of all time, which as a result, it would surely make it happen though, so hopefully trying to beat out the forms of not only Nintendo DS, but also with the PlayStation 2, maybe for the upcoming months, or technically speaking though, it's a bit difficult to say this right about now, because no matter what though, we still have to rely on the forms of not only some droughts every once in a while, but it's also worth noting for is about the fact that we can still able to expect that we might able to actually see some, well, small amount of titles ranging from, you know, ports, remasters, remakes, and some other, miscellaneous kind of stuff, I would assuming for this point right there. So, anyways, and it's something else is worth noting for about the fact that for those of you who have a first time experiencing Klonoa 2 right here, you do realize about the fact that Leorina did say damn it twice. So no matter what though, yeah, it still exists, just like the forms of how it does in the original PlayStation 2 version. So no matter what though, you can able to expect to know that particular line of dialogue still exists in this particular remaster, which as a result, yeah, that also happened the same thing from the likes of Empire of Dreams for the Game Boy Advance as well. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that I can totally see why this game is rated for those of you who lived in the UK, it's PEGI 7, whilst compared to I don't know about the forms of the American version though, because no matter what though, as we've already established that before, about the fact no matter what though, actually, I don't think I actually mentioned about this, but for those of you who don't know, that basically, the physical version of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series only exists in journey forms within Japan and Europe. However, in North America, it's digital only, which I'm not exactly sure they come up with this particular decision. I mean, what is this, like a similar situation as the forms of not only, let's just say, Sonic Gems collection on the PlayStation 2, and, Also same applies with the forms of Pikmin 2 for the Wii. Whilst usually for Pikmin 2 for the Wii, did eventually get a North American release until 2012, for I've noticing that already. Well, that might be beside the point either way. So, as it turns out, no matter what though, we have to stop the Ark before anything else happens. So because of this though, I think we should probably tackle for one more level for the time being, and as a result, we're going into the Ark Revisited. So this means no matter what though, we have to do a lot of backtracking here and there, for the time being anyway. And it's also worth noting for, this is the level I was talking about in regards to the forms of the most infamous, doll piece we can able to obtain. So, for the most part, the first 5 is not too bad, but the last one is quite infamous for its reasons, mainly because the amount of timing you have to put up with is so exact, and no matter what though, it's about the fact that we can pretty much guarantee about the fact that there might be a couple of mistakes that we might come across into. Well, let's don't get our hopes up at this point just yet though, because no matter what though, obviously the main objective or the actual main emphasis on the stage actually plays out to be, it plays very similar to the forms of how it does it for the likes of it as Ark, except the fact that the biggest difference is this time, rather than just trying to able to activate the Ark itself, we have to basically destroy every single sectors for the actual Ark itself. So no matter what though, it's almost like a complete opposite version of the forms of that previous level we've already been into. So, and except no matter what though, is about the fact that what makes things a little bit more, as I mentioned this before, a lot more lengthier, but it's also worth noting for is about the fact that I feel like that between this stage, alongside with the next one coming up, is going to be the most toughest levels I've ever experienced by far. At least to be more specifically for Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil itself. So, but then again though, that particular explanation can wait. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well, I guess, is about the fact that no matter what though, is that there is that particular Nintendo 64 game called Beetle Adventure Racing. Well, as it turns out, that particular game did recently celebrate its 25th anniversary recently during the forms of in 2024, which I was not expecting that, especially noticeable. I have heard about the game, but unfortunately though, I haven't received the game for myself, you see, because no matter what though, I'm basically more into the forms of specific franchises recently, ranging from Rayman, which, as a result, speaking of Rayman though, I've heard about the fact that Rayman 2 The Great Escape for the Nintendo 64 version is also going to be celebrating its 25th anniversary as well, so maybe there's a chance about the fact I can probably expect to get yet another version of, well, Rayman 2 The Great Escape at some point. Yes, this also includes the DS version as well, but I highly doubt, I don't think I can probably get myself the PC version or the iOS version, because I've heard so many bad things about the forms of the iOS version, mainly because of the forms of this very awkward control scheme, and yeah, you probably name the rest of it though. So, now as you can see, since we did somehow blow up one of those generators, as you can see, we must make an escape, because otherwise, if we don't escape during that time, this means we'll take a life away. So no matter what though, we have to act fast, so yeah, you pretty much know exactly what to expect. It's almost like the opposite version of Isorosis Islet, or Isorosis Ark, as far as I was meant to say, because I know for a fact it's been about 2 days ago since I actually have last recorded this, basically, because no matter what though, that I'm pretty sure no matter what though, this is where the point about the fact that I feel like that March itself is actually a pretty good month so far. I mean, obviously, no matter what though, we've already got ourselves the forms of Princess Peach Showtime already since 6 days ago at this point. So, yeah, that's as far as I can able to explain any of those specific topic worth noting for. And straight to the point about the fact that Leorina was actually going to be helping us, alongside with the forms of Tat as well, so we can pretty much expect to know about the fact that we're going to be moving on to the next section. So, now, as far as what Maxi has already mentioned about this before, since in Journey forms have been Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, I honestly cannot even believe that Velma Season 2 is going to be releasing around the exact same week as Knuckles the series, which as a result, yeah, I honestly still agree with Maxi on that front, because obviously we'll be excited for Knuckles the series rather than Velma Season 2. Like, I can't even believe that Velma is actually getting the second season, despite the fact that a lot of people seem to really hate that particular series, just because, well, it's almost like a, I don't know what you would call it, because, well, good thing I did not watch the actual series, I have to be brutally honest here, just because no matter what though, I've heard that Velma as a series itself sucks either way, just because, you know, it did somehow retcon everything for the sake of the forms of what makes the Scooby-Doo series so great in the first place back then. So, yeah, I still don't get it about the fact that why that does the actual release dates make a decisions when it comes to likely releasing around the same time as the forms of one of those bad adaptations for, like, well, it's hard to explain really, because I know for a fact that no matter what though, I'm pretty sure that I will let Maxi will mention more about that particular criticism when it comes to the forms of likely, well, you get the idea for this point. Oh jeez, that was close. I almost fell into the lava right there, because otherwise if I fell into the lava, it'll just instantly kills me. So, yeah, we have to watch out for that. Similar to the forms of how it does it in Blue's Tower, from the likes of in the extra vision in Door to Phantasy, basically. So, and as it turns out, no matter what though, I'm pretty sure we need to try to just be very careful not to get hit by too many things at once, because no matter what though, as you can tell, that our extra lives counter doesn't seem as going to be that much, I'm afraid. And as it turns out, no matter what though, that it feels like we've almost nearly done when it comes to obtaining every single doll pieces right now. Just because no matter what though is about the fact that I'm pretty sure we've only got 3 dolls left. So just to ensure for the fact that we can to exponentially trying to unlock the forms of the other 2 levels coming up, specifically towards the end either way. So yeah, as a result, no matter what though, is about the fact that I get the strong feeling is that tomorrow is going to be the Good Friday tomorrow. So yeah, no matter what though, there's nothing else I can probably explain any of those things for right now either way. So let's just go ahead and hash this egg out, so just in case we can to obtain the blue crystal, so we can expect to obtain that. So anyway though, there's also another thing I want to address something about this as well. I found this a little bit fascinating about the fact that, do you guys even remember back in the day, during the forms of well, for those of you of the bronies do not know, about the fact that back in during the forms of some time in 17th of February in 2010, where basically though, when there's this particular event called Toy Fair 2010, and one of those particular announcements they did bring back in the day was, well, conveniently enough, the new generation, well, used to be back then, which as it turns out it was G4 for My Little Pony, which later on became My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which as a result, whenever I looked at the forms of specific images, including with the forms of that specific time capsule for the sake of the forms of how that particular video still exists anyway. And as it turns out, the actual promotional image while looking back in 2010, specifically 17th of February to be exact, and my goodness, it is so crazy to believe while looking back on it though, like it does manage to feature specifically with this promotional image of this particular image of not only Pinkie Pie, but also with Rarity and Applejack in the distance. Like, jeez, that seems rather odd, and what's even odd is that they somehow basically reused the exact same My Little Pony logo based off from G3 counterparts. So yeah, that seems odd, especially noticeable because no matter what though, yeah, that was before when the superior generation comes in with G4 and everything. So yeah, it seems kind of bizarre. And not to mention though, they've shown us the actual figures display of not only Twilight Sparkle, but also with Applejack and also Pinkie Pie, Spike the baby dragon, or should I say Spike, and on top of that, Princess Celestia, which obviously no matter what though, she's still in pink rather than full white, unlike the other incarnations of Princess Celestia that obviously Hasbro as a actual toy company did somehow fix that particular issue. Well, I've noticing that anyway. Well, it's kind of difficult to tell at this rate. I mean, relatively speaking, though, it's been quite a while since I actually have mentioned something like this. So, anyway, though, there's also another thing I want to point out as well, is that I think, potentially speaking, though, is about the fact that, I've noticed about the fact that thanks to the films of the Netflix team, is actually going to be teaming up for the films of the most highly anticipated sequel is going to be on its way eventually at some point in the future. Now, as it turns out, there's this particular film called, let's just say, like, Happy Gilmore. Basically, that involves, Adam Sandler, who actually decided to play some bit of golf. Well, as it turns out, the sequel is going to happen. So because of that, though, not exactly sure when is it going to release exactly, though. But my guess, it probably has to be, oh, I don't know, 2026 to mark the 30th anniversary of the first film's release, or something like that. Although, then again, it's a bit difficult to tell at this rate, because I already know from the start, though, is that we're still in 2024 still. So, yeah, at least I'm very appreciative about the fact that the sequel of that particular Happy Gilmore is going to happen. So no matter what, though, I'm guessing that no matter what, though, is that Netflix is about to teaming up with Adam Sandler at this time. So at least that's something, I suppose. So that's the another one of those films I was incredibly hyped for. So yeah, no matter what, though, like I mentioned this before, is about the fact that since that we've already seen Kung Fu Panda 4 already. Usually, again, I'm not going to mention any spoilers, because obviously for those of you new out there who hasn't exactly experienced the cinemas for quite some time, and obviously if you still have not seen the film yet, well, I can honestly recommend it. Well, exponentially speaking, though, like I said before, the entire film is not perfect by any means. I mean, for the fourth entry in the series, it's actually a good one. Although I will still say about the fact that, in regards of the films of which one's my absolute favorite, Kung Fu Panda films, for that point, I would say the first one is super iconic, and the second one is even greater in the forms of not only in terms of storytelling, but also it's like grand in scale. Well, to be more specifically, it's like the most epic way if possible. And the third entry in the series is actually a really great one, and a great send-off with this entire trilogy, whilst for the fourth one, it was good. Not the best though, but at least it does its job. So, yeah, that's for my honest opinion about it, and I'm sure enough though that again, I'm not going to mention any spoilers like I said before, and I think the next film I'm about to be seeing eventually in 2024 is, potentially speaking though, it could be either be the Garfield movie or Inside Out 2. I will say my definite pick is going to be Inside Out 2, just because I would love to see what really happens after the films of that particular first film ended. So no matter what though, around that time and during at some point in June sometime, then obviously I can able to actually re-watch the first film again, so just in case I can able to actually, well, get myself the actual recap of after seeing the films of the first film. So yeah, I guess that's all I can really say about it. So, oh jeez, that was close. I almost intentionally trying to able to fall down to a bottomless pit, but thankfully we've made our way safer. So we're just able to do that, and yeah, the first 5 doll pieces not that big of a deal, like they are very simple to grab. The last one most certainly is the most frustrating, mainly because you have to be so exact with the timing aspect. So yeah, wish me luck I suppose, especially noticeable no matter what though, it requires the forms of that specific enemy, which as a result, you see why. Now I'm pretty sure you probably already know about this, ever since in the original PlayStation 2 version of this particular game already. So, and I think this is the spot I was predicting for. Yep, it's this part. So, it's to be more specifically though, it's right after this checkpoint. So, at least after we try to able to deal with this particular dynamite bomb-like enemy first off, so we can able to just do that. So, yeah, for the most part though, it's just about the fact that as soon as we're able to go through this particular thing right there, then obviously you know exactly what I was going to be saying. And that is this part right here. So basically, you see that enemy right there? Well, basically, if we try to go up there, then you obviously burst out not only 1, but 2 boxes, except the 3rd and final one. But here's the catch to this though, you need to be exact dead on with the timing right there, so you can able to actually get yourselves the final part of that doll. And I think, if I recall correctly, is that back in 2021, is that when Ray the Flying Squirrel did already done the original PlayStation 2 version of this specific level, obviously no matter what though, he decided able to actually complete the level as normal at first, but until when it gets to the point on his second run through of the stage, obviously he did manage able to succeed. However, I'm gonna do something a little bit more different this time, because obviously no matter what though, I just cannot afford to able to actually just go for that particular exact same stage again. So no matter what though, I will try my best if I decide able to go after this particular godforsaken doll piece, which as a result, seriously, is a lot more harder than it looks, because obviously, again, timing is key, and not to mention though is about the fact that, you know, you need to be exact dead on with that. So, yeah, it's not as easy though. And I will say is that about the fact that this particular piece is by far the hardest doll piece to obtain. So, yeah, it does took me about a couple of tries, especially noticeable with a couple of minutes included. So no matter what though, yeah, I can totally see why a lot of players seems able to get frustrated with that particular piece right there. Because, you know, it's not as easy. Because, you know, it's even bad enough that particular enemy does not spawn into that specific spot as I was standing on. So you need to be dead on with the timing. So, yeah, anyway. So, there's also another thing I want to point out as well. And good news, everybody, is that we finally managed able to got ourselves a brand new color scheme for one of those drivers in Mario Kart Tour. And as it turns out, we somehow finally obtained the orange Shy Guy. So yeah, that is seriously more like it, especially noticeable because back in Journey Forms Within a year ago, my goodness, we keep on getting frustrated with the Forms Within Mario Kart Tour when it comes to able to unlocking specific characters. I'm referring to as the forms of the, you know, some cosmetic ones, or to be more specifically, certain color variations for specific characters. Like, we still didn't get the actual orange Bodo just because it's still locked out behind the stupid ranked cup system, and in addition to that, we also did not get green Bodo. But that's okay though, because every once in a while is about the fact that I don't think it's possible we can able to actually get every single driver's spoiler alert, because obviously no matter what though, they're just so dang impossible to able to actually get any other, like, or all of the drivers in Mario Kart Tour, including with the Mii Racing suits as well, just because thankfully though that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did somehow manage able to trump the actual Mario Kart Tour's system, because no matter what though, thanks to the forms of some free DLC updates with the Forms Within version 3.0.1 or something like that, or if I like to say, I'm referring to as, you know, version 3.0.0, if I have to be able to be more exactly from this point. Obviously though, I don't have to worry about the forms of not only trying to get certain amounts of those Mii Racing suits while trying to deal with the actual massive paywall, but it's also about the fact that I don't have to worry about the forms of trying to able to, well, you know what I'm saying, trying to keep an eye on for multicolored variations for Yoshis, Shy Guys, and even Bodos without needing to rely on the forms of the stupid ranked cup system in Journey Forms of the actual leaderboards. So, yeah, I still honestly do fully appreciate about that specific stuff though, I have to be honest here. So, but either way though, again, I am biased when it comes to likely still preferring Mario Kart 8 Deluxe over Tour, just because obviously Tour suffers the forms of a lot of issues, ranging from bad controls, and occasionally, for my phone anyway, for XR model, sometimes I will admit that right away, the game would tend to lag. Well, not even when I was on offline or anything, but when it comes to online, or to be more accurate though, it's not even about the fact that when I was on online, but I'm referring to as whenever I experienced the game offline, my god, the game attempted to lag a lot, which I have no idea what's causing it though, or perhaps even maybe because the game decides to able to jinx on me for saying about the fact that how bad that game is, because I will still say, Mario Kart Tour is by far the weakest of the Mario Kart games. I have to be brutally honest here. Next to the forms of maybe Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. At least with Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, I have to be quite frank here, that at least the concept is interesting, but as far as content goes, there's nothing else to it, aside from the fact that you can able to experience the forms of some unique theme courses, despite the fact that, oh, there we go. Oh, jeez, that took me quite a while, especially noticeable because I somehow got distracted about the forms of how much I still despise playing Mario Kart Tour now, mainly because of the forms of this unpredictable, unfair AI. Not to mention though about the fact that every time whenever I do battle mode, my god, battle mode still blows. Enduring the forms within Mario Kart Tour in mind. So, alright, so we come towards this particular situation right now, which obviously we have to just trying to think of something else when it comes to likely just get some progressioning up there. And also not to mention though is that the actual projectile needs to be red. So, but I basically know exactly what I'm doing here, so obviously I have to do this, and boom. Nicely done. So now we can able to proceed into the final segment in the Ark Revisited. So, thankfully I don't have to worry about just trying to go for the entire stage all over again, so just to ensure I can able to do a successful attempt to able to actually get this godforsaken doll piece. So no matter what though, I think it's going to be okay enough. So, it's just about the fact that no matter what though, I'm still basically trying to able to utilize with my Switch Pro controller as for right now, but it's just about the fact I feel like that the buttons are a bit too big for my liking, which is especially noticeable because no matter what though, there might be a couple of times where I accidentally throw the enemy by mistake, and on top of that, I might accidentally able to actually just to press the actual jump button at the wrong time. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that maybe, I don't know about you, because like I said before, it's been about 2 days ago since I actually have last played this for sure. So, it looks like no matter what though, we've almost nearly at the end right now. I mean, relatively speaking though, this stage is already going to be lengthy as it is, especially noticeable with this godforsaken doll piece that I somehow keep on about. Well, thankfully that particular part is over, so because of that we can now able to just, well, get that particular key right up there, and exponentially we can able to make our way to the final generator before we move on to the alternate dimension, or should we say the fifth kingdom of any sorts. So hopefully though, exponentially though, about the fact that I get the strong feeling that the next level coming up is going to be without doubt is the hardest level in the entire game. In regards to the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's fail entirely because of not only there's going to be a lot of trial and error, but it's also about the fact that, well, if you really want to get out of your way to able to actually go after every single crystals or gems, well, good luck. So, anyways, here's the final generator, and in order to able to blow up the actual generators, usually for all three of them, basically we have to use those little bomb chew-like enemies, and then basically you have to send them exactly where the hole is. So, self-explanatory for the most part right there, and I almost get hit right there, which that was actually a luckiest jump I've ever encountered. And we'll send her in the hole, and then the actual bomb decides to detonate. So, well, to be more accurate though, oh dang it, I was too late. At least, oh wait, no. Okay, at least we'll grab this one instead, so because the other ones are a bit too quick for my liking, so hopefully I'll try and make it in a nick of time, although I'm really hoping so anyway, because I don't have to worry about, well, exponentially speaking though, thankfully we've already got the checkpoint from earlier, so at the very least though, I do need to keep an eye on with my life counter at this rate, just because no matter what though, I just refuse to be able to get a game over, or should we say, vision over screen, because no matter what though, I think that's just what I was going to be thinking about this anyway, so anyways, let's just, oh jeez, I need to be quick. Come on! Just the last stretch. And there we go. Oh jeez, the Ark Revisited is finished. Oh wait, that was exhausting. Well, anyway, so now we're done with that. So no matter what though, we're about to be moving on to presumably speaking though, the final 3 levels of the entire Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil, basically. So yeah, there goes the Ark. So yeah, I guess this is the final farewell to see the Ark like this. I mean, obviously the entire Ark has just been blowing to pieces. Well, it's not necessarily blowing to pieces, but to be more specifically though, it's actually flying down. So as it turns out, we can able to actually access this particular portal, which pretty much leads us to the 5th kingdom in the entire portion of it, I should say. So because of that though, yeah, as it turns out, we've only got 2 dolls left, and no matter what though, it all comes down to the forms of the final 2 platforming levels, including with the forms of the final boss in the game, and also 2 special levels. So yeah, we'll save that topic for a later time. So with that being said, we got the endings off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series while we're still playing through Klonoa 2. Lunatea's Veil is that we're going on to, without a doubt, is the hardest stage in the entire game, which is Kingdom of Sorrow. So I'll see you guys until next Tuesday. Later, fellas.